Hey, this is Clean and Sober Stoner. I'm Gypsy, and this is Real Talk Time. I just wanted to come on here and talk about genres. Recently, I put out an interview and a review with the amazing band Faetooth. And in that, I talked about how they have kickstarted a new genre called fairy doom. Now, the internet has responded, as the internet does. And there's a lot of positivity around it. And there's some people who are just quite frankly irritated, confused, or in some cases pissed off. They are talking about all these other bands that fit that genre and why are we only assigning this to Faetooth. We're not actually only assigning it to Faetooth. It is just that genre, that name, subgenre, has not really been kicked around until this young band got on the scene. And when you Google fairy doom, everything that comes up is Faetooth. This really got me thinking. People are pretty intense about this idea of genres and subgenres and assigning it correctly. And I think that's a little bit silly, but I understand it. I remember being a child thinking that there was a very stringent and categorized list of music genres, and you were either on this side or you were on this side. When I was a child, I remember it was rock, country, jazz, classical, rap, and maybe a few other things. But you either liked one or you liked, well, and of course blues. And you were limited. As I got older, I started to realize, okay, well, there's bluegrass and there's metal and there's prog and, all kinds of different things. And we are in such a musical renaissance right now. We have access to so many incredible tools to hear music and share music. And the beautiful thing of that is all these little subgenres that are created and born from all the fusion that can take place. I really want to address this idea of what I've been seeing in the socials about fairy doom. There are a couple categories I'm seeing. There are people who are just celebrating it because they get it. Some people think it's funny or sort of silly or, childish. And other people find it irritating and offensive. And I don't have any way to qualify what I'm about to say. This is just my gut response to what I've been reading. I think it might be generational. I think that the people who think it's silly and think it's sort of fluffy and childlike and doesn't fit in doom, I think that they might have a limited experience with what fairy, or the more proper term, fae, means. I think they are underexposed to folklore, cultural folklore. In every culture around the world, there's some type of story of fairies, of dragons, of these other world things. That's my fae dog. And those stories are typically about nature, and the fairies, the fae, are tied to nature. And nature isn't inherently good or bad. Nature is nature. And therefore it can be dark and scary and mysterious and dangerous. I think those people are thinking about Disney and Tinkerbell and cute little things like that. And that is not what we're talking about here. I think, and this might get me in trouble, I think there's also, maybe generationally, some people out there in the world, and this kind of makes me feel sad, some people in the world that still assign the word fairy as a derogatory term for gay people. It really does make me sad to think that that was used in an insulting way for so long to, put a label on specifically a gay man. And we should be past that. And I know a lot of us are, but I think some of us aren't. And any band that identifies any way, it shouldn't even matter. This is music. It's for expressing wherever those musicians are at, and kind of holding on to that derogatory way to, put down a gay person. That just needs to go away. We're over that, folks. We should be over that, folks. So I'm prepared for some bruising with, tomatoes and cabbages coming at me over that. Hopefully not. But you know what? If the Muppets could handle getting vegetables thrown at them, so can I. So moving on from those two things that I think people are misinterpreting this genre name over, a little education here about the Fae. And perhaps that's what we should be calling this genre. Instead of fairy doom, perhaps we should be calling it Fae doom. Fae is that word that means anything that's of that realm. And, I grew up with a lot of literature and art in my life. I grew up with Lord of the Rings. I grew up with the Bible. I grew up with Brian Froud and Alan Lee's Book of Fairies. Brian Froud ended up being the conceptual artist for The Labyrinth and The Dark Crystal. And Alan Lee ended up being the conceptual artist for the Lord of the Rings films. I was highly influenced. In fact, I got that book right there. Highly influenced by this artwork, by the folklore, by the stories. And, I would talk about it and draw it and trace it and write things. And I remember asking my dad, and he was so kind in his responses to these questions, but I remember asking him, are fairies real? Could fairies be real? And he didn't just tell me, no, it's all made up. And he didn't just tell me, oh, yes, they're real. He said, well, the stories that we find in every culture around the world throughout history that are similar, that talk about things like fairies and things like dragons and things like magical creatures, those stories come from something. What they come from, I don't know. I'm not going to say that they're real or they're not real, but I'm going to say it is a mystery. And man, he gave me a gift in that response. He let me continue to imagine. He let me continue to have fun with it. So fae, fairy, it's dark. It's not Disney fluff, cute kid cartoons to me and to many people. It is that darkness and the folklore, especially, German, Norwegian, Finnish, Celtic, in those traditions. There are so many stories of the fae, of the little people, the good kind, or the Lian and Shi, all of these different things. And what makes them what they are is that they are neither good. Like I said before, they are neither good nor are they evil. They are nature, and nature is wild, and nature is unpredictable, and nature is frightening, but nature is steady. It is a place that you can go to and enjoy and be renewed. So fairy doom to me, and I think to many people, is simply describing heavy, doomy metal music that is infused with, layered with, and propelled by a feeling of the fae, a feeling of nature, a call to nature, a respect for nature, a desire for nature, and a healthy reverence for nature. That's really all I have to say about it. I think it's fun. I think it's funny, the controversy, and ultimately, I want to see more of this, more subgenres, more avenues that people can take to take what they love and bridge it with something else that they're interested in. Storytelling, feeling, evoking a feeling in your listener or your audience. That's really what it's about. And for me in particular, and I think for a lot of people, it's about feeling like you've found a little piece of home. Listening to certain bands, I will feel that connection. I will resonate. I will relate. And I'll feel like some artist out there, some band out there gets it. They get me and I get them. So let's keep having fun. Let's keep celebrating all these different, subgenres that are born all the time. And let's recognize that a band from 20 years ago might fit a new genre, that genre name that we've branded or adopted now. And let's have fun. Thanks.